Good afternoon to everyone. This is a historic occasion, I'm just going to introduce myself for the record. I am Brenda Cox. I grew up in Green Valley and Johnson Hill, and I was in the class of 1965 that finished Wakefield High School. I walked to Hoffman-Boston for 5 years, and then my senior year, I was bused 3 miles to Wakefield High School. We have several of my class members here. Our class size went from 62 or 63 people to 883 people just in the 12th grade. Today we're here, and I always just say precious memories, how they linger, to tell our story with so much changing in the country, in Virginia, in Arlington. If we don't tell our story, we're the generation that can tell our story unlike anybody else. And we owe it to the people who mentored us, who nurtured us, to tell our story for history's sake. And so I want to thank you all for showing up on short notice. Today is going to be interesting, to say the least. Precious memories, how they linger. Our moderator today is one of our fellow class members, community members. He grew up in Green Valley. And God is so good, because I didn't know how I was going to be able to say this, but I told him I was going to say this. He grew up in Green Valley on Lowell Street. And on the block of Lowell Street that our MC grew up on, his neighbors were literally the principal of Drew School, the principal of Hoffman-Boston Jr Sr High School, the coach, the first coach at Hoffman-Boston, one of the faculty members of Howard University in the School of Business, Mr. Naylor Fitzhugh, and Roberta Flack. Hindsight is 2020. We did not know how rich an experience we had in Arlington during the time that we were there, and I am eternally grateful to be able to say this. Before I let Wilbert take the mic, I told him I was going to say this. Wilbert grew up and he was nurtured, and we were all nurtured by the best. When Mr. Richardson turned 100 in 2013, Wilbert and I went out to his 100th birthday party, Friday night, March 3rd, 2013. And that night, Mr. Richardson, he had a party, okay? Very nice party. But he gave remarks, Wilbur gave remarks on behalf of Hoffman-Boston. When Mr. Richardson got up to give his remarks, he was 100 years old, but one of the remarks that he gave, which I feel is the ultimate compliment, he said that Wilbur Talley was one of the 2 success stories that he was most proud of in his career, the other one being the late Willard Britton. I thought that was priceless. And I got a chance to tell that when Wilbert had his 50th anniversary as a minister, but I am so glad to be able to tell that here today so you all can see. Mr. Richardson was 100 years old, and he said that. So our MC that's going to be moderating us today is one of Mr. Richardson's most successful success stories, our own Wilbert Talley.
If I were in church, I would say, let the church say amen, but I'm not going to say that. First, I want to say thank you to Brenda and to Judith, whose leadership and the persons who have been a part of it are responsible for us being our gathering today. We're here for a most significant occasion, and we thank you for responding to the invitation. Yes, it was at short notice, but you came, and you're here. because you have indeed come to celebrate what for us was a significant experience in Arlington County, when the one and only African American school was educating the young minds that stood ready and were thirsty for knowledge and direction. And as Brenda has indicated, we were educated by the best. They were highly educated and qualified. And one of the things is that all of us know is that sometimes, even though we didn't like the discipline, we were certainly products of and beneficiaries of all that they had to share with us. And it made a difference in our lives. So we come to, at this moment, to recall from you and from each of us some significant events that took place in our lives that remain something that is important to us. And it's important that we document this and that we make it something that indeed will endure long after we have passed on. Because to have this institution, to include these statements and concerns in the archives that shall indeed remain a part of this institution for future generations to read and to indeed become aware of what was taking place is significant. And so it is historic. It's historic because there's going to be some codification of what you say that shall indeed be in the archives of this institution. And because of the persons who were significant to us, and because of the things that we may share, then this endures on to remind not only the members of this county, but the members of this nation, that there was an institution in Arlington County that made a difference. And each of us has our own story that we can tell, and we're therefore thankful, because in fact, we have become the fulfillment of their dreams, of their expectations, of their hopes. And we are, whether we like it or not, the essence of what they hope for. And our very lives are the testimony of the evidence of things that they did not know or see, but wished and hoped for. So we are the testimony. And everywhere we are and whatever we do makes a difference, because they poured something into us that becomes a part of the legacy of our lives and explanations of who we are and how we became who we are, that we are also charged with the responsibility to pass on to others. They set the example for us. The least we can do is be sure that we pass it on. And so we're thankful for you being here this afternoon, and hope you will feel free to share whatever you have in the treasures of your own heart. Because in that storehouse of memories, there's something that all of us need to hear. Arlington County needs to know, and the world at large needs to understand. Because in spite of being in a nation, in a country, in a county where there was division, segregation, and denial, we came through it. Think about that. We came through it because of Hoffman-Boston Jr and Sr High School. And so with that having been said, we're going to proceed with the program for today, and we hope that you will liberally share with us, because what you say is going to be recorded and placed in archives for generations yet to come. Thank you so very much for just being here. And you know, when you get the age that some of us are, you may not want to recognize it. But when you get to the age where some of us are, a lot of things start sliding away, but we are still able to speak our truths. Thank you again for being here. So we're going to proceed. And at this point, you're going to come up?
You have the list of names.
No, I don't.
Judy, you have the list of names. That's it all. You have the list of names, or should we use it?
Okay. We already have a list of some persons who have already been spoken to, and we're going to ask that you come up. Now, don't call on that fellow named Top too far. Not at the very beginning, please. And avoid that young man named Evans, because they do talk. But would you come up at the time, and you come to this podium and share whatever is on your heart and spirit? Okay.
Okay, I have Alonzo Evans will start us off.
Now, we want you to know that you are being recorded.
Being recorded, and identify yourself, and
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Alonzo Evans. Actually, that is not my name. I found out upon getting ready to enter the Air Force that when I saw my birth certificate for the first time, that my name was not Alonzo Evans. My name is Alonzo, spelled A-L-O-N-Z-A. And I had to get some forms filled out that from that moment forward, that I would be known as Alonzo T. Evans for the rest of my life instead of Alonzo. Well, yes. However, on my life's journey, I met a couple of people. One was Dr. John Henry Clark, the other one Dr. Ben. And with that relationship, as I was matriculating through college, working on one of my little degrees, it was suggested that I look back at history and look at who I was actually named after. And so at that time, going through that, I found that the origin of my name goes back to ancient Egypt. And John Henry Clark told me that that time I should adopt that name instead of continuing to carry my name at birth. So if you look on at my Facebook page, you'll see the name Tahuti Sa Nebachua. And most of you probably couldn't pronounce it and wonder, what did that mean and why was that name chosen? Well, it simply means that the wisdom of God is alive in me as such. I had a breathtaking, a life-changing experience, and by falling down on my knees and praying to the great divine of the universe, I was saved, and saved in a way that's made me a better person, and it's enabled me to live to be 80 years old. But going back to my memories of Hoffman-Boston, Hoffman-Boston has followed me all the days of my life since I left the school itself. I was fortunate enough, as I was explaining to Top back there earlier, that at the halftime football game between Hoffman-Boston and Parker Gray, it was our homecoming. All right? We were undefeated, untied, and unscored on up until that point. And Mr. Haygood and Mr. Howard said, we can't afford to let the captains go out for halftime, so William Simmons and Evans, y'all go out there at the halftime. So there's a picture taken of me crowning Paula Clark as our queen for 1961, and that picture in that yearbook followed me around everywhere I went. And it followed me all the way to North Africa, in fact, because there on the Willis Air Base football team, I got a chance to play there, because of that picture. So how did Hoffman-Boston influence me later? Well, because I had a picture looking like I was the captain of the Hoffman-Boston football team, and there was a record in there that we were unbeaten, untied, unscored on, and I must have been the captain. I immediately got a job or got a position on the Willis Air Base football team. It was fun. Another thing I remember greatly about Hoffman-Boston, God bless her soul, was Mrs. Wanda Hill. How many of you remember who she is? Who she was?
she'll be 97 and 98.
Oh, that's beautiful. And she's still with us?
She is still with
Oh, well, that's a beautiful thing.
She, to my knowledge, as far as we know, she is the last surviving teacher at Hoffman-Boston.
Okay.
But I've spoken to her in the last 10 days.
Okay. Well, if you don't remember, Mrs. Hill was our choir director, vocal instructor, and what have you. And she taught me, she was the second person to teach me how to sing. And again, I was fortunate enough to, I was overseas at Willis Air Base in North Africa, became a member of a singing group. And that singing group, we won the North African talent contest, we won the European talent contest, and we were sent all the way back from Africa, all the way back to California, to the worldwide talent contest where the group came in second. So again, a skill I learned from Hoffman-Boston, like spurred me on to, like through my life. But the other thing I think about, and I'm so happy just to be here and seeing Wilbert, because Wilbert and I were friends. We talk about Lowell Street. Do you remember Miss Harrison? Can you still? Wilbert was a great tap dancer. He wasn't just an intellectual. Wilbert was Mr. Everything. But again, the 1961-62 Hoffman-Boston football team. We did something that hasn't been done in the state by anybody. And when the movie came out about that other school next door, remember the Titans or something? How big and bad and all that they were. I'm happy that they got a little movie made about them and the work they did. But the work that movie displayed does not match at all a football team that was unbeaten, untied, and unscored on. And where I go and I talk to people about that football team, a lot of them don't believe that team only in its second year of football all right, was unbeaten, untied, and unscored on. It's a great thing. My greatest memory from Hoffman-Boston, not just the teachers. I mean, Mr. Haygood, I talk about Mr. Haygood. Mr. Haygood was a hell of a man, a hell of a coach, a hell of a teacher in terms of mathematics and science and what have you. I remember Mrs. Grace Dupree. She was our homeroom teacher and guided me, like through school and what have you. I remember really most of the teachers, but Mrs. Dupree had a great influence on my life. Mr. Haygood had a great influence on my life. And the last person I'm going to mention is Mr. Griffin. Now, a lot of people won't know this. I don't know, a couple of people, but I wanted to play on this football team. Mr. Griffin came to me one day and said, "Son, listen." He said, "You just too small to play football." I want to be on the football team. Mr. Griffin said, "I'll find a job for you on the football team, but you can't play football. You just too small." So Mr. Griffin did what he thought was protecting me the first year and made me the manager of the football team. Yes, that's right. And but off season, I ran as much as I could, did a few push-ups, as many as I could, trying to get in shape to be ready for the second year. So in our second year of football, I came in when it was time, like for us to practice the whole thing. Mr. Griffin said, "What are you doing, Evans?" I said, "I'm going out for the football team." Mr. Griffin said, "Son, what am I going to do?" He said, "You have a great mind." He said, "You're probably going to do something with your mind when you grow up. You don't want to be a football player." So now, Mr. Griffin, I want to play football. So he made a deal. Okay, well, if you continue to manage the team, I'll let you practice with the boys and give you a position that you can play. Yes, sir. So I was, a little skinny kid. They thought I was just too small and what have you to play. So Mr. Griffin allowed me to be on the team. And as I was, in fact, telling some men this morning, when I told them I was coming here for this reunion, and again, every time I mentioned Hoffman-Boston, I would mention our football team record. So the question was, well, what position did you play? Is that Melvin Costley just walked in? He said, "Well, what position did you play?" Well, I said, "Well, I held the ball for extra points. That was my job. Yeah, everybody had a title and something to do. I held the ball on extra points. I'm not ashamed of that. I was a little skinny kid from Green Valley, Virginia, and probably shouldn't have been on the football team. So my last great memory of Hoffman-Boston was just being able to be a member of that football team. So the greatest thing from one of the greatest high schools in the state of Virginia ever was Hoffman-Boston High School of South Arlington, Virginia. All right? It had a football team that was unbeaten, untied, and unscored on. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we move on, I just let you know, we have to use these mics. And as you come up to speak, you cannot touch the mic up here because that interferes with it, just FYI as we move forward. Okay, our next speaker at this point, I'm going to ask Erline Dixon to come up, please.
Hello. My name is Erline Andrea Bravad, and my married name is Dixon, and none of you know me by that, so I'm not going to say that. But anyway, I'm one of the ones who did graduate from Hoffman-Boston, and I graduated in 1960. I don't believe we had, I'm going to say we had less than 100 and leave it at that in the graduation class. We did not have a football team. We had, I can remember basketball and baseball were basically it. My brother, who was 8 years older than I, also graduated from Hoffman-Boston. He graduated with Roberta Flack. And they had a yearbook. When I graduated in 1960, we had a newspaper. We've come a hell of a long way. We really have. I remember a lot of teachers, too. Mrs. Lincoln was another person that taught home ec. And Mr. Boyd, and he was still alive. I don't know whether he is now, but he was alive a couple of years ago. But he was drama, and I was never athletic, but I loved drama, and he really made you feel so good. I think all of the teachers did. I agree, they were all great teachers. A lot of them started out not in Arlington, but they were doing their first teaching jobs was in Arlington, and we got them. And I think we molded them as they molded us. It was almost like a family. Well, it really was like a family, actually, because the teachers, I remember Mr. Richardson, Mary Robinson was assistant then, I guess, and Fred Washington. Mrs. Mamie Gant drove us to, yes, absolutely. And so, and they were all like our extended family. Because if you did something, believe me, your parents knew it by the time you got home. So it was so different than it is now. And I have 4 children, and all of their classes were bigger than all of Hoffman-Boston, because I don't think we had from 7th grade to the 12th grade, I doubt if we had 500 people. So they graduated from these large schools. But I will say this, it is so nice graduating from a school that you can look back on, feel good about. I am hoping, and the reason I told Brenda I wanted to do this is I'm hoping that those of you who live around here, and even those who don't, because I don't live in the same area anymore, but I'm hoping that you will never, ever let Hoffman-Boston be forgotten. The reason I say that is because the only way we can do that, years ago it used to be by word of mouth. We now have a wonderful place here in Central Library that has more Arlington history than I have ever seen. I'd love to see Hoffman-Boston be a part of that, being that it was the only black school back during my time where you could get a higher education. And I think that's special. So, I would like to say, I'm glad all of you came. Thank you so much, Brenda, for inviting me. And I do hope that you all, somebody in the room will take the lead and say, we want Hoffman-Boston or OHB to be around forever. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we're going to ask Ralph Randall to come. Okay?
What was that comment? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ralph Randall. I grew up in Hatfield, and one of 6 boys and 1 girl from my dad and my mom. We started out, let's see, first of all, I graduated in 1961. And my days go back to when we were going to elementary school at Drew down in the valley. And then eventually they opened up Hoffman-Boston Elementary up in Johnson Hill. And back in 1955, we had a 6th grade class book. And back then, those times, you know, they would ask individuals, what is it that you wanted to be when you grew up? And my dad worked for Arlington County Highway Department. He was the first black foreman for Arlington County Highway Department. And he and his crew were the ones that went around put in curbs and gutters and these types of things. So what do you ask someone who's in 6th grade in elementary school? I want to be just like my dad. And in this book it says, cement finisher. Boy, did I not know what I had in store for me, but yes. But in the class of 61, I have a fraternal twin brother, Randall. It's a little contention between the two of us because I was born a half an hour before he was. But for the class of 1961, he was the president of our class. I was vice president, and my beautiful cousin, Lolita Moore, was class secretary, and classmate George Fagan was the treasurer. But my memories go back, I think of people like Mr. Griffin, Mr. Claiborne, Mr. Haygood, Mr. Halstead, those individuals. Back during those times, we, the students, respected our teachers and our seniors and things. And at least from a boy's standpoint, if we did not do right at school, especially in gym, Mr. Griffin and Mr. Claiborne them had Little Bertha and Big Bertha, that they took us behind closed doors, and we got they eventually got our attention. And one thing that I remember and I really appreciate in growing up in a segregated school is that we respected our teachers and our seniors and things along this line. And I give them credit for molding me as to the individual that I ended up becoming and things. But One teacher that I guess a lot of the boys, young men admired at HB, especially in biology, was Miss Burroughs, Nanny Heller. But it was a good time. And for me, I had the opportunity to follow behind my oldest brother, John. And upon graduating, I went into the Air Force in '61, spent 20 years in there. I had the opportunity to be stationed in Denver, Colorado, out in the Aleutians at Shimmy Air Force Base. I came back and was stationed at Fort Meade. I went to Frankfurt, Germany, supporting National Security Agency for 4 years. I went to Kansas City, Missouri. I came back to the Pentagon and worked on the Secretary of the Air Force staff. And I retired in 1981, worked as a contractor for 2 years, became a Navy civilian in '82, and I retired as a Navy civilian in 2003 for a total of 43 years of service. And I appreciate everything that I learned at Hoffman-Boston. Speaking of sports, I remember an individual named Mr. Johnson, who would come through Hatfield, Johnson Hill, getting the young men together, playing baseball down at Jenny Dean playground. And he had a station wagon. We got in there, he took us all around. But we remember Mr. Johnson for the things that he helped molding us. Another individual, someone mentioned Mr. Boyd, Chet Boyd. He was the drama teacher, but he had a side gig. He was a DJ on WOOK over in DC, WOOK. Yes, yes. But that was Chet Boyd. But I really do appreciate the opportunity going to HB, like I said, and all the things that we were able to learn and the individuals that we were molded into really played great dividends as we continue to grow. So have a blessed day.
Okay, now I'm going to ask Vanessa Carter to come up and share some expressions with us.
I know. Hello, everyone. I am just so happy to see so many of you, many of which I haven't seen in, just years and years and years. But I want you to know that it just does my heart good to know that you all were able to come. I don't have really a whole lot to say, but many of the teachers that have already been spoken of left a good place on my heart as well, especially Mr. Boyd, who really brought me into the theater, into drama, and to this day, I'm still a member, 30-plus odd years later, of the Kennedy Center. I still go up to New York to see plays and musical productions, etc. But all of that would not have been had it not been for Mr. Boyd. Yes, and I just have so many memories that it's just really hard to pick out one or two. But my experience at HB, even though I wasn't the last class to graduate, I had to go to Wakefield along with Brenda, but I always consider HB as the school that I graduated from, because the teachers gave us love and discipline and knowledge and just being able to know how to be a decent person, a good citizen, someone who had their education and that it was put on straight, just like you put on a straight hat. So everybody, Mrs. Dear, now I can't even hardly think of the names, even though I know them. I've been hearing them all along. But at any rate, when Brenda first told me about this reunion, something just came on my heart. And because I do reefs as a sideline, I wanted to do the reef that you see above you. The leaves simplify the fall because we always started the day after Labor Day. The school buses are for Green Valley and Hatfield and Halls Hill and all of the places that the school bus brought the students. We had the basketball and the football and many other sports, but those I was able to get. And the blue and the gold ribbons signify our school colors, because we were mighty, mighty, mighty Trojans. Yes, and then the books that you see on the reef signify the knowledge that we all obtained. Because if you didn't get something in your head from going to HB, something was really wrong with you. Because I feel so good about HB, and that when they told us we would have to go to Wakefield, I cried for days. I mean days, because I looked forward to graduating from Hoffman-Boston. And I didn't get anything by going to Wakefield. Everything I have then and what I've become now has been from the teachers at HB. Yeah, that's it.
And I want to share with you that when I talked to Vanessa and she told me that she had done the reef, she wanted that to be commemorative, and as we continue to meet, she wants that to be a part of our celebration, so we're going to have that. This is the beginning of the next phase of HB alumni. Okay, the next person on my list to speak is Louis G., my brother-in-law. You need help? You good? Okay.
My name is Louis G. It was a time I could jump up there. But the reason I can't do it because I got rid of all those old parts, got new hips, new knees. I'm doing good. I'm the bionic man. You know, I've listened to everyone talk about the high school, but I started school, it was Hoffman-Boston Elementary through 12th grade. And there wasn't no sidewalks on Johnson Hill. And when you come down Queen Street to get to the school, after you pass 14th Street, there were long hedges. And as you walk past the hedges, it opened up to this big sidewalk, which is still there. And as you walk towards the school, on the front of the school was the double doors, but above that was the principal's office. In first grade, the principal was Mr. Sidnor, and he had taken over for Mr. Mr. Rose the year before. And first grade was, teacher's name was Mrs. Fleet. Third grade was Mrs. Sims. Fifth grade was Mrs. Coggs. In sixth grade, I never will forget Mrs. Burt. And I'll tell you about that in a minute. But The school had, when you opened the doors and walked into the school, it was a big hallway. It was 3 steps you went up, and that was the gym, the auditorium, and just the big room that we all gathered in. We had our dances and everything there. You walked on the hall to the left. Down the end was the boys' bathroom. On the other end was the girls' bathroom. And every year around Christmas, the Glee Club used to walk the halls, because the stairway on either end, and they would walk the halls and sing Christmas carols. And I always remember that because I don't know if anybody remembers Doris Avery. She was the shortest girl in the class, in the school. She was the loudest and had the prettiest voice. So she always led the Glee Club. And I remember that because I just love Christmas. But as the community grew and the school just got too large, so they decided to build an elementary school in Hoffman-Boston. The year before the school was open, the classes got so big, the 5th and 6th grade went to have classes in the base of Mount Olive Church. Mount Olive Church was something to remember because on Wednesdays, Mrs. Bower used to come over for art. And one day, Mrs. Bower was there, and we were having art. The 6th grade was on the right, 5th grade on the left with Mrs. Cards, and we supposed to be drawing on our paper this way. I was drawing my paper that way. Miss Burke came over, saw my paper, balled it up, backhand me, my head hit the radiator, boom! That's why I remember Miss Burke. But I too went into the Air Force, and I thought back, after being in the Air Force like 3 days, what a knucklehead I was. We had the best teachers, the best support, and I didn't apply myself. But even if you was a knucklehead like me, you walked away from Hoffman-Boston knowing something. And it's always a pleasure to think back about those great teachers. And Mr. Boyd wrote the school song. And I think one year that we were doing the school reunion, we went up to Hoffman-Boston, and they showed us the school song. We said, oh no, that's not the school song. Remember that, Erline? So we went and got the school song and took it to them, and they adopted it. So now the school song is still being sung at Hoffman-Boston. Thank you.
Okay, probably the next speaker probably should have been one of the first ones. We are here alumni of Hoffman-Boston Jr Sr High School, and Hoffman-Boston has deep history in the Arlington County to this day. Hoffman, Mr. Edward Hoffman, the first principal, was a member of Lomax AME Zion Church, and he currently has 2 granddaughters that still go to Lomax, and they are here with us today. The oldest one is Andrea Chapman, Peter Bark, and Tawana Murray are here, and Andrea has agreed to give us comments. But I have to tell you, the Hoffman family, Andrea, you can come on up. The Hoffman family has deep roots, and in Arlington, Hoffman's daughter was Vivian Haskell. She was a 4th grade teacher at Hoffman-Boston, and I have a picture over there. Miss Haskell was my 4th grade teacher at Kemper School up at the top of the hill. And yes. And I have a picture of my classmates when we were in the 4th grade, and we were dressed as the colonists and the Indians. And Denise came in. Denise, you're in this picture with Miss Haskell, and Brenda Brittain is here. She's in that picture with us. Our 4th grade, we were taught by Edward Hoffman, the principal of Hoffman-Boston High School, his daughter, Vivian Haskell. And this is his great-granddaughter, who is currently a member of Lomax. She's moved out of Arlington, but she's here. Before you start, Tawana, stand up. She's not going to say she's not going to speak, but she's there, okay? The legacy of the Hoffman family.
Good afternoon, everyone. It does bring me great pleasure to be here with you as one of Mr. Hoffman's great-grandchildren. Yes, my sister and I both grew up here in Arlington. We grew up on 18th Street, across the street from where my grandfather lived. And it was my grandmother and my grandfather who raised us to a great degree, brought us up because Mom and Dad had to work. But I did attend Hoffman-Boston for the short time that we were segregated. Back in 1966, I went there in 7th grade and was there through the next year, which then became the junior high, which was just 8th grade. But when I first went there, it was a senior high school. Then in 67 was when they decided that we would no longer go there as a senior high school. It became a junior high for the 1 year, which I was a part of that from 67 to 68. Then we integrated. As everyone has said, though, the values were very high for us in Arlington County. In 69, we then became integrated. So 68, 69, I wound up at Thomas Jefferson, the old Thomas Jefferson. But my grandfather, the school was named after him, which I am very proud of. But it broke my heart when I started hearing it being called Hoffman-Boston H.B. Woodlawn. H.B. Woodlawn. And I thought, oh my goodness, history is going to be lost. And I started asking about that because I felt that something had been stolen from us. But then I found out that it was Hoffman-Boston program, and H.B. Woodlawn was the program. And so that's how it became H.B. Woodlawn. Oh no. We're going to be proud of Hoffman-Boston School that was named after my great-grandfather. And I tread on that to this day because I feel that we here in Arlington are due that because things can be snatched from us. When Brenda told me that we want to keep Hoffman-Boston alive, I am so proud of it, and I say thank you, Brenda. Thank you. Thank you over and over again, because otherwise we would be wiped off of history. We'd been just taken out of it. But that is what I had to say today, was that I am proud to be the granddaughter, along with my sister, the two of us. But there are two other Hoffman's children that are still living on my, there's the Uncle Marcellus family that was on, I guess it's Lincoln Street. Many of you probably know the Hoffmans on Lincoln Street. That is my grandfather's brother. So they are still There's one of them, I think, as we call him, Pluky. Because I mentioned that to someone, and they say, Pluky. I said, don't ask me his name. All I know is Pluky. And Pluky is still with us. Then my Uncle Clarendon has one son who is still living, Reese Hoffman. And then there's also Yvette Hoffman-McGee, which was Bernard's child. So there are at least 5 of us that are still here. And so I thought I'd mention that today because many people think that it is just the 2 of us. But actually, there are about 5 of us that are still surviving. And I don't know if any of you did know of the other part of the family. Is anyone else aware of the Hoffmans that were on Lincoln Street here? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I thought it was, but I didn't want to say that. But see, I grew up with him as Pluky. To this day, I still call him Pluky, but it's Leroy. So I'm glad to find out because in talking with another I guess it would be grandchild of the family, Tina, which her mother was Claire, which my aunt raised her 2 children, Marshall and Cecil Campbell. So as I'm thinking, history is coming back to me because Marshall and Cecil are no longer with us. Both of them are deceased. And that was who raised, was my aunt, Vivian Haskell, who many of you mentioned to me, oh yeah, Mrs. Haskell was my teacher. And so I'm very proud of her because Aunt Vivian was teaching at the time that I went to Kemper School. I could go back to Drew School and give you a whole rundown of that. But I won't do that today because this is all about Hoffman-Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will say that Andrea was in Arlington. She retired as an Arlington County school teacher. Okay, Jean Moore.
We are gathered here today to see who's still living that went to Hoffman-Boston High School. How y'all doing? I want to elaborate on what Dr. Tyler said about the teachers at Hoffman-Boston High School. To my knowledge, they had a minimum of a master's degree, all of them. But we give a lot of credit to Hoffman-Boston, but I want you to think about something. Think about your mother and father. What part did they play? And send you to school, make sure you stayed in school, and the love they had for you. Now, you're talking about brothers and sisters, there's 10 of us. My first step off the bus in the 7th grade at Hoffman-Boston, David Ruffner and a bunch of the boys saw me and they said, "Boy, do you have insurance?" I looked at him, I said, "Well, my mother got Blue Cross Blue Shield." "No, we're talking about insurance up here at the school." I looked at David, I said, "Yeah, I got insurance." He said, "Who is?" I said, "John, Jimmy, Godfrey, JoJo, and myself. All the more boys." He said, "You go ahead, you all right, we ain't bothering you." And we talk about the teachers, I loved all of them. I know they hated me because I disrupted the class every Sunday. But there was one smart teacher, real smart teacher, and that was Mr. Holt. Mr. Holt told me, he said, "Gene, since you disrupt my class every day," it was English, "I want to make a bargain with you. I'll let you tell a joke a day, and you keep your mouth shut the rest of the class." You know how hard it is to think of a clean joke? There's very few of them left. But I want to show. I'm gonna give you one today. That was just a mechanic, and he was working on a car. He took the head off of the car, cleaned the valves, resurfaced everything, and was about to put it back. And he saw this heart surgeon doctor come pick up his car. So he asked the doctor to come over there. He said, "Doctor, look what I've done. I disassembled this engine. I refurbished it. I'm about to put it back." And he said, "But you get 5 times as much money as I do." The doctor looked at him. He said, "Try doing that with the engine running." But anyway, oh, it wasn't funny, huh? Well, I'm a little lost for words now, but I just want to say, I don't want you to answer this question. Was integration better for us, or was it not? I told the teachers at Hoffman-Boston, y'all can't beat me like my mama can beat me. Mr. French beat me with a heavy-duty extension cord. Miss Bower had me to take a yardstick, put 2 of them together, and whoop me with the yardstick. Mr. French had a step ladder. That was the ladder of education. You step on one, pow! You step on the next, pow! And I look back on my life with my mother and father. If it wasn't for them, would I be dead? Would I be in jail? Would I have other problems? So I'm just saying, I thank the Lord for all his grace and his blessings. I thank the teachers for the same. And I love all of y'all, because God wants us to do 2 things especially. Love him with all your heart and love one another. Y'all have a nice day.
Okay, I'm going to open it up. You want to come and have something to say? You want me to bring it to you? Oh, okay.
My mother.
Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
No, now speak.
All right. My mother and the family.
Give your name.
Lillian Burton Vollen. My mother, Ruth Burton, and family lived over where the Pentagon is. And when they built the Pentagon, they had them move over to where my youngest sister, who is in her 70s, lives in that same house next to Mount Olive Baptist Church. And I'll be 90 years old in March, but anyway, it's just so wonderful to see all these people here and such precious memories. Oh yeah, it was very difficult then. I remember walking up Columbia Pike. My mother sent me to the Safeway to get some groceries, and this white girl on a bicycle rode up behind me and hit me in the back of the head. Nigger, nigger, nigger. I would love to forget it. I would love to forget it. But still have a lot of precious memories. I still go to Mount Olive Church every Sunday, see my sister, look over at the house, and remember growing up right there, going across the street to Hoffman-Boston. There was a little teeny old place then. My mother went to Hoffman-Boston. And still have a lot of precious memories. Few sad ones, but hey, still here. Yes. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Started not to come, but I am too. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Burton, open it up. I was about to open it up for people that hadn't given me their name. Anybody here? Okay, Mr. Randall, please. My mother's supervisor.
First, giving honor to God, I want to thank you for this opportunity to be here.
Go up.
My name is, I don't need a mic.
Yes, you do.
No,
You
no,
do.
that's
You do. We're taping. We're trying to tape. We're trying to tape.
My name is John C. Randall Jr., and my story is this. I'm the oldest of 7. My father was a laborer in Arlington. My mother was a housewife, class of 1958. I worked through high school. I didn't, unlike my cousins and everyone else, do anything except went to school, and I worked all the way through high school, 5 days a week. And on Saturdays, I cleaned myself up because my dad was a Pentecostal elder at Bible Way Church, and that's where I spent every Sunday. Every Sunday. I graduated, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, as number 2 in my class. Number 2. I was getting ready to get married to my sweetheart in D.C., Pat Moore. And I was flying high, and Mr. Francis Washington changed my life. He came by the house one day, and my mother's name was Effie. He said, I want to talk to you. She said, I don't have time. He said, John, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to get married. He said, oh my God, you can do better than that. This is what he did for me, ladies and gentlemen. In 1 month, he had me enrolled at Virginia State College as a student. And my mother said, we can't afford that. He said, I can get him a scholarship. Half. And I said to my mother, Mom, I have $3,000 in my account because I worked and I couldn't spend the money. So I went to Virginia State College and majored in elementary education. And in my senior year, Charles Wash came through. He was the assistant superintendent for personnel in Arlington County Public Schools, and he said, you're hired. Homeboy, come on home. So I went back. I taught at Drew, ladies and gentlemen, and there were people like Mrs. Halstead and Elizabeth James, all of them, who said, oh my God, look at him. Look at what we did. They had no idea who the hell I was. Too much time had passed. And so I'm down there, and I'm working, and I'm working, and I'm teaching. And my other person who changed my life was Roy Griffin. So I'm believing that if I work hard and work hard, I will move up the ladder. And he said, you're not going to go anywhere. Tally has a doctorate, Brenda has a doctorate, and all you have is a BA. Go back to graduate school. And I did, went back to George Washington University. For your information, 5 years later, I became a principal in Fairfax County at 29 years of age. Wow. My career in Fairfax spanned 7 schools. I started, yes, her mother worked for me at Bailey's. When I retired, I was at Stewart High School, retired from Fairfax, moved to Montgomery County, was the principal at Walter Johnson, went to Beaufort, South Carolina. Then I went on to South Bend, Indiana. But those 2 individuals made the difference for me, and I thank God for them every day. Thank you.
Yeah, my mother talked about her experience. She would come home. They worked together during the Vietnam boat people coming here, and as opposed, we were doing, we had to deal with integration, black and white, but they dealt with the Vietnamese people coming over here. My mother, it was the conversation at dinner all the time about the boat people and having to adjust, make appropriate adjustments in the school system, and he was the principal. I'm opening it up now to other people who would like to have. Marie, please come on. And anybody else, this is open mic, and we will. I think this has been priceless. You don't know what you asked for until it just.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to share these very precious memories. I really loved Hoffman-Boston, and I'm glad that I went there. I believe Hoffman-Boston School was a blessing to me and to other students who attended. Hoffman-Boston School was a safe place to learn and to make mistakes. We didn't have guns then. The schools are not safe anymore. Sweet memories come to mind when I think of Mr. Francis Washington, Miss Grace Dupree, Miss Champion, Mrs. Rosie Robinson. The shining star in my life was Miss Alma Davis. And I'm sure you all remember all the, but before I go there, the people who molded us, when the people came there and they knew we were going to integration, they took time and molded us individually. They looked at our weaknesses and they helped us to develop so that we could become the citizens that we are today. I am so glad that they had that perception, that they didn't use their time to party, that they helped build the future that we are today. We are a blessed generation. But let's get back to Miss Alma Davis. She was my shining star. I almost cry at the times when I think about her preparation, her practice, and her presentation of the Christmas Nutcracker Suite. I'm sure those of you all who were there remember. The Nutcracker Suite was envisioned, when I think of it, I envision Marlene Whitey's, and she was the ballerina. She danced on her toes to the Nutcracker Suite. There were 10 soldiers that marched, and with expert precision. Hoffman-Boston included the local community churches. So aside from the beautiful dances that the children did, and each group had a different dance, and they did it perfectly, but the churches were there. And the program ended with everybody singing the Hallelujah chorus. And I don't know why the roof is still on that building, because it was absolutely beyond marvelous to hear the churches and the school children and the choir. It was marvelous. I treasure the time that I spent at Hoffman-Boston. Hoffman-Boston had some guys that were very strong in athletics. When I think about the school, I think about names like Eugene Green, Sammy Muse, Leon Brandon, Freddie Brooks, and James Powell. I was a cheerleader at the time Hoffman-Boston won the championship. That was a few hundred years ago, and if you remember, we wore those blue felt skirts with crinoline up under them. That stuff was hot. But we won that year, and I jumped, and I jumped, and I jumped. I passed out. I got so high. But it was worth it because we were the champions. I enjoyed my years at Hoffman-Boston, and I considered them a blessing. I, too, became a teacher. I worked in the district. I started at Drew School, and I finished up at Henley Elementary School in Southeast Washington. That was a blessing for me, and I have had some children to come and let me know that I was a blessing to them. I thank God for the people that He put in my life, and I was blessed, and I appreciated Hoffman-Boston School. Thank you so much.
Okay. Shirley, you coming up? Yes. Okay. Bless you. Okay.
Thank you so much. You all may not know, but I'm Shirley Brown-King now. When I graduated from Hoffman-Boston, some kind of way, well, you know, first of all, I was adopted. And being from Culpeper, things didn't develop as quickly as they did maybe in Northern Virginia. So didn't find out that my biological mother had already named me. So when I graduated, and they called, you know how they call your name when you go get ready to go across the stage. And they said, Barbara Frances Brown. Everybody looking, why is Shirley getting up? Shirley, what's wrong with her? When did her name change? Well, that's what happened. But I have to tell you, I have to go back a little bit. When I was in Drew Elementary, and also I attended Kemper. Well, back in Drew, I had a crush on Wilbur Talley. Ooh, I thought he was the best looking boy in school. I was so stupid though. I would have him, and he was such a gentleman back then. Even then, he was so polite. And I would throw my book bag to him for him to pick up. He would pick it up and carry it for me. You remember that, Wilbur? But anyway, okay, left Drew and went to Hoffman-Boston. My mother went with me my first day. She looked up Mr. Richardson, found him in the hallway and said to him, "This is my daughter, Shirley Brown, and I want, if you have any problems out of her, I want you to beat her." Not discipline her, beat her. Well, needless to say, I never was bad at Hoffman-Boston. You didn't have to have me to do anything out of the way. Now, I must give you this last story. I was in, it might have been Miss Bondurant's class. I can't remember. But it was snowing that day. It was, so pretty. And she said, "I want everybody quiet in this room." You know, we had been so disruptive. Why did I look out the window and said, "Gee, the snow is pretty"? She said, "Shirley, come here." Brought me up, took her ruler out, and she whacked me across my butt and told me, "Now you go back there and sit down and don't say another word." Well, needless to say, I didn't say another word. But you know, unfortunately, my grandson, unfortunately, will never experience what I had when I was going to school. Our teachers dressed. Teachers nowadays, you can't tell the teacher but from the students. I volunteered at my grandson's elementary school for 5 years, the whole 5 years he was there. And again, you could not tell the teachers from the students. Not only that, they will never get the delicious meals that we used to get. I mean, we had women who came in the cafeteria and they cooked. We had home-cooked meals. These kids will never experience that. Now my grandson comes home with, "Darius, what did you," that's his name is Darius. "Darius, what did you have today to eat?" "Potato chips." "Oh, well, they let us go off the school grounds. I could go to McDonald's." They will never experience what we did. I loved all of my teachers, from elementary through senior high. Back then, I think the graduating class at that time in 1963, I think we had maybe 60 students to graduate that particular year. It was a beautiful thing. I enjoyed all my teachers. I enjoyed the learning that I got. And the one teacher that was the most boldest I always felt and was afraid of was Miss Boulware. I will never forget, I was a hall monitor. I was going through the halls. You know, we had to keep the kids if they were walking around without a pass. I told Miss Boulware somewhere didn't have a pass. She said, "What?" She came out and went right into the boys' bathroom and got them out. I will never forget the teachers that I had. They were wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, Ivon, come on. That's okay. No, we home.
Good afternoon. I'm Ivon Stewart-Ston and graduated in the class of 64. I wasn't prepared for this, but I'll tell you what I'm always telling people in the neighborhood, people I know now. I came out of the class of 64, the last class, graduating class. I had no continuing education. I worked at G.C. Murphy's from the time I was in the 10th grade until I was in the 12th grade. And I got a government job after that. I was the first black salesgirl at G.C. Murphy's. Blacks could only work at the food counter. And when they integrated, since I was already there, I became the first black salesgirl, and I could also go into the white break room. In the meantime, I ended up getting a job at the government. I worked there for 17 years. My job was abolished, and I decided to resign. And they said I could get another job because of attrition. I lost my job. I applied for unemployment. They said no, I couldn't get it because I resigned. I appealed. I won my appeal because no one from the government came to say that, to stand up for that. So I won the appeal. I later got a job with Piedmont Airlines, and I was the first and only black person to work at the congressional desk. And while I was there, I wrote the rules for congressional members. I was the one that was able to tell them yes or no they could or could not get on a flight. And I would just put them on hold for a few minutes and come back and say, no, we can't do that. But I enjoyed all that I got, this education from being at HB and not getting any further education but just there. And I graduated with your brother, James Cox. And Sammy Muse was my uncle.
Hey, Denise, come.
Hello, my name is Denise Black Bracie. I married someone who graduated from Parker Gray. But I know, I tell you that all the time. But I just wanted to talk about a couple of things. One is to kind of reiterate what both Randall and Vanessa and some other of you said, how well HB prepared us for life, and how actually after we left HB, everything else we did was just a specialization because we already had the foundation that we needed to be successful. And two examples of that is, one, there were two teachers that had a lot of influence on me, and one was Mrs. Burroughs. I know a lot of people were kind of afraid of her, but I was the teacher's pet, so I didn't have that fear. I had a big can of potato chips in the back, in the back where her office was, and I didn't have to go to class. I would sit back there and eat the potato chips and read books. But what she did is I had a science project, and it required radiation, and we contemplated doing it, getting the radiation and putting it in the classroom, but we didn't do that. What she did was she arranged, and she took me at least twice a week for at least a month to NIH to use their Van de Graaff machine. And she did this during the school day. And I didn't think anything of it, but now I'm thinking, well, what teacher does that? But what that taught me is that you have all kinds of resources available to you. It's not just your little circle that you see and work in. You have a lot of resources. So fast forward, one of the things I did with my child is whenever I needed things for her science projects, I reached out to the Smithsonian, to NIH, and I've learned to use other resources outside of my little box. The other person, well, I won't say who, but I'll tell you this. My husband and I planned this trip, and we didn't have a lot of money because he was in law school, But we planned this trip, and we had a certain budget for this trip. So when we went on this trip, the first day he lost all of the money we had planned to spend because he was gambling. And of course I was mad, but then I said, okay, like, I took a little bit of money. We had like a little bit of money for breakfast for the next day. And I took that and I went to the tables and I played blackjack. And I won the first 11 hands. And I thought that I had recouped all of our money. So I went back and turned in the chips, but I hadn't won all of the money back. In the meantime, this professional gambler had been watching me, and he was amazed that I was winning these hands the way that I was winning them. And he said, don't stop playing, don't stop playing. And I said, well, I'm not going to stop it only because I want to win all of the money back, because we have another 4 days left on this trip and no money. So I went back to some of the tables, and I won another 6 hands. So that made, after I won the 6 hands, I had won all the money back plus more. And so the guy was really amazed at this. But when I turned in my chips and I got all of my money plus more, I looked up and I said, thank you, Neil Haygood. And the reason I said that was because, like, Mr. Haygood hated me, loved Tally, loved Tim some Tally, but he hated me. But it didn't bother me because I learned, when he taught probability, I learned all that you could learn about poker, crap, blackjack. I was a pro. I mean, and I have to thank him all the time for that because I still use that. And the other one is someone was here, Shirley was talking about Alma Davis, I believe, and I've forgotten about her, but she taught us how to walk. I remember she taught us how to walk in heels. She taught us what kind of lipsticks, the shades that were more appropriate for our skin color. She taught us how to sit. She said, cross at the ankles, knees together. And these are lessons I know a lot of our kids out here need to learn how to do now. But she had a big influence on me because even now, when I put on heels, I think, okay, Alma Davis, knees straight. And I noticed some of you talked about Mrs. Burroughs, the art teacher. Boulware, yeah, Miss Boulware. Well, Miss Boulware, I remember that she used to hit your knuckles or something. Pinch you too. But with my aunt, she took my aunt and she enrolled my aunt in different classes because she saw a lot of potential in her art, and she also had her enter a lot of art competitions, and she won the Washington Star competitions, and that's through Mrs. Boulware, just pushing her forward and letting her know there's a lot of opportunities out there for people who are interested in art. So I know that, although we have little things to say about our teachers, they were really preparing us for life. That's it.
Okay. Wait a minute, you need the mic.
I don't know if Roberta made it, but she was a wonderful, sweet girl, Dennis Hoffman-Boston. We were all there together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Roberta, a lot of people don't know, Roberta Flack grew up on Lowell Street in Green Valley. Her mother, Miss Flack, Irene Flack, was the organist at Lomax AME Zion Church for years. And you just had to be there to know. And her sister, Laureen, sang the Palms every Palm Sunday. To this day, I have never heard anyone sing the Palm on Palm Sunday like Laureen Flack sings it. Roberta played, and Roberta was my first piano teacher. I was in the second grade, and Roberta's 10 years older than I am, and I would walk from Kemper Road up the hill to Lowell Street when I was in elementary school, and she taught me. Taught me how to read music, my first piano teacher. We had a community unlike anything, and you had to be here to know. I can see the look on Billy Butler's face. You just had to be there to know what we were doing. Is there anybody here that went to Hoffman-Boston during the time that the guys would go to the golf course at lunchtime? Jojo Moore. No, because that was, I've been doing the history a long time, but that was one of the things that they said that they do. The older generation, when they open up, the guys at lunchtime went to caddy at the golf course, Army Navy Country Club golf course. I just wonder if anybody, your husband used to, he left Mr. Richardson's school on lunchtime. Oh, okay, we don't know what you're looking at. Mark, okay, we need to, this is being taped, so we need you to come up so we can hear you. Or I'll bring you the mic. Okay. Okay, that's okay. I'm bringing you the mic.
You mentioned something about Army Navy Country Club, and back in those days, well, Mamie Gann was our bus driver. And not only was she our bus driver, but she was our mother, uncle, father, brother, cousin, lawyer, and you did not talk back to her. And the bus will be coming up Glebe Road, and we would be running down 18th Street, 17th Road, 17th Street, and you would think she would wait for us. She pulled right off, took one hand on the steering wheel and the other hand said, bye-bye, bye-bye. And we had to cut across Army Navy Country Club to get to Hoffman-Boston. And believe it or not, we were running because we dare not go back home because we would got punished. I mean punished. And so the deal was when we were stopped by the security guard, and of course, if you had mouth and knew how to talk, they would let you go. And that's how we were able to get by, cutting across and through Army Navy Country Club, and there was a hole in the fence where we had to crawl, and that's by the Soufax Apartments back in that day, and we made it. But when you said something about Army Navy Country Club, I guess I'm one of the few still living that cut across Army Navy Country Club because we missed the bus from. Oh, okay. All right.
Mark James.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I noticed some faces here that I recognize that I went to school with. I'm Preston. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I had a change of name. I'm just going to give you the one that it is now. Okay. Oh, stop it. I heard you. My name is Gingi Nicole, and I came down from New York. I've been living there many years. And who was it just said something about Alma Davis? Someone was speaking about Alma Davis. That was my girl. And she was a gym teacher, and she stood 5'11". And as you noticed, I'm right glammed. I got this from Alma Davis. She was a fashion model, and also she was just tutti elegante. And I'll never forget the first day I saw her, and she'll never forget the first day she saw me. Because at 6'2", I was 6'2", and there I was, just not knowing what to do with this body. And she said to me, she said, "You, come here, come here." She said, and I came up to her, she says, "I want you to meet me in the auditorium this afternoon. The modern dance team is going to be there. I want you to come." And I'm like going, okay, what did I know? And so I go, and I'm standing back there in the back of the auditorium, and they had, the dance group was on. I'm going to be quick. I know. And the dance troupe was on the stage, and they were dancing to Ave Maria. And she looked back, and I'm like, what does she want with me here? You know, and she saw me, and she beckoned me to come up to the stage. I went up to the stage. She says, I want to show you something, and then I want you to repeat it. And she says, okay, come with me. She took me to the, in the stage, you know, the area where you wait. And she says, I'm going to do this. You just stay right there. And so she says, cue. She clapped her hand for them to cue the music. And they cued the music, and she was standing there. She's so graceful. And I'm looking at her, and I'm going, okay. So the dancers, they came out onto the stage. And the scene was the little angels, she came running, she was to come out, oh, thank you. She was to come out from where she was waiting out on the stage, and the wing, and she came out, and she just stood right in the middle of the stage, and she put her hand up like this, and the little other dancers came, and they bent down at her feet, and I'm looking, I said, oh, how lovely. And so when she came off the stage, she said, can you do that? And I said, I think so. She says, cue music. And the next thing I know, I'm standing in the middle of the stage, and I'm hand up, looking up to the stars, and the little angels are down at my feet. And I said, oh, this is wonderful. This feels good. I was big, but that's just to say, I've got many stories, but that's the one I had to leave you with because she made such a difference in my life. I went on from New York, from here to New York, and then on to Europe, modeling. And she was she just for me inspired me. And she just kept, she gave me something that no one else gave me. And that was to find out what to do with this big little girl and to know what to do with my beauty. Because at that time, that wasn't something that women of color, we weren't being taught to be proud of what we look like. You know, what is that? So I just want to thank you, Elma. I wish she was here today, because I never got to thank her because I traveled and went away. But my brother, Preston Green, do you all know Preston? Oh, that was my brother. Yes, and I'm speaking on behalf. Huh? So we know who you are. Oh, come on. Okay, anyway, did y'all get that? My name, I was named after my grandmother, and her name was Annie, and my mother tagged on May. So my name was Annie Mae, and it's now Gingi Nicole. Yeah, that's the only one I'm going to answer to, okay? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Tomorrow, this has been taped, so we need the names for documentation. Tomorrow.
Okay, I'm Tamara Moore. Well, actually, it's Tamara Terry Moore. And I just wanted to share.
The mic is there.
Yeah, you can hold the mic, okay. I just wanted to share the last paper for the Goodbye Hoffman-Boston Jr High. This was the last year, and there's a note here from Mr. Richardson. It says, I am happy to take this opportunity today. I'm happy to take this opportunity to say farewell to all our students on behalf of the faculty and staff of Hoffman-Boston Junior High School. This has been our first and only year as a junior high school, but in this year, our students have more than held their own in all county activities, athletics, and academics. Of this, we can all be proud. This was the last paper, it's dated June 15th, 1965. It's somewhat worn now, but it does have the pictures of all of the students of 1965, which would include myself, Gingi, Charles, who else? Oh, Susan. And Gail, yeah. So there were quite a few of us, and this is the last paper with all of the pictures of us, who were the last class of Hoffman-Boston Junior High School.
That is priceless, and we're here under the auspices of the Center for Local History, and that's going to become a part of our history. Erline? You need the mic, come up. It's being taped. No?
if you all have any photographs that can be used for, I was thinking that, Brenda, to preserve what we've talked about as far as HB is concerned, it really would be nice if you could get them to Brenda in some way, and she'll get them back. But that's another way of holding on to the past and just trying to preserve HB. As I look around here, you all are so young. Good Lord. I didn't know people who were that young. But anyway, I just want to say I'm thanking all of you all for coming. I definitely want to thank Brenda again for pulling this together. Yes, and definitely thank the Lord. If you all are interested, did you all put names down of people who attended or registered?
No, but I'll get the names. See, everybody see me before I'm gonna get some paper and document who's here, so
Okay.
that we will know. But there's an ad hoc committee that got this group together. All you had to do was put the word out and calls were made. So, just make sure whoever your contact person is, if we don't, I'll get it. Oh, okay. But just make sure we have your information if someone told you about this affair, because we are planning to have a follow-up, hopefully in February. Felicia McPhail is going to come up and share, but this is the beginning. At this point, we are coming to the end of the actual people who were at Hoffman-Boston, and if we don't tell our story, it is not going to be told. We owe it to the people who came before us. Wilbert and I went out at the day after Mr. Richardson's 100th birthday party. We went to Mr. Richardson's home and we interviewed him, and there's a videotape of Wilbert interviewing Mr. Richardson. And we had planned it, and I had written the questions, and Wilbert was doing the interview. And one of the questions that I had was about the impact that integration had, or whatever, or what he did to prepare us for Wakefield, because I was in the class that I went to Hoffman-Boston through the 11th grade, but then I was bused to Wakefield, so I had to graduate. My graduating class went from 61 or 62 people to 883 people just in the 12th grade, like a culture shock. And I'm not going to prolong this, but you could get 3 days in the street at Hoffman-Boston if you got caught smoking cigarettes, not pot, cigarettes, back in the day. But when we went to Wakefield, they had a smoking court for the seniors. It was a definite culture shock. But we who know need to document it. I am overwhelmed really at the support that we have gotten for this. This is the beginning that we're going to make a conscious effort. I got this picture here. This is a picture of my 4th grade class from Kemper School. Miss Haskell was our teacher up in Kemper School. Denise, you're in this picture. And Brenda Brattain, who was here. At this point, it's kind of out of order, but Judy Knudsen and Isabella are here with us. They have been priceless supports to me through the years, because I've been trying to work on HB history several times. But the Center for Local History is here. Feel free to stop by there before you leave here, because I'm the historian at Lomax Church. There's the exhibit as we speak, and it's been up for about a year, but the exhibit as we speak in the Center for Local History at Arlington Central Library is all on the Lomax AME Zion Church. When we turned 150 in 2016, I documented the history, and what I found, I was able to convince the leadership at Lomax to transfer 40 boxes of historical documents to the Center for Local History here. And they have cataloged the documents, and our history is in the public domain. But in going through the documents, all this happened right as the pandemic came. They went through, and you just have to see it. There's an original document there that the ministers, the black ministers in the county, signed when they went to the school board to challenge them. During integration, they did not want to force white parents, to force white parents to send their kids to Drew School. They had a Montessori program there that was optional. As a result of that decision of the county, Tawana Murray and the kids in Green Valley had to be bused to far North Arlington to make room for these optional white students. That document is there. It's been up and it's going to be up. Before you leave, just go across the central lobby and see the exhibit. And I would encourage you, not just Lomax, all the churches in Arlington, if you know, in your homes, you all have the history there. As we start this, make an effort to find out what is it that you have that nobody else has that would document our history in Arlington. In the last year, somebody has told me that that Green Valley is less than 23% black now. Okay? So given the thing, if we don't tell it now, it's not going to be told. And I cannot not do this, but I just appreciate any support that we can get. Gene?
Yeah. I just want to say, one of my points I wanted to say was that in the 50s and 60s, there was no black history in Arlington County in the school system. Our teachers taught me and y'all all the black history that we know. You know, there was not a black history book in the whole county of Arlington. All right, and to get back to you with Mamie Gant put me off on Shirley Highway. I had to walk all the way home from Shirley Highway. That's how great she was.
My name is Edward Alfred. We need to get our youngsters out in November to vote also, because they're trying to destroy our history. Project 2025. Project 2025. And I talk to a lot of young kids, and they use these cell phones to spread false information. And this criminal that's running there, I call it, like I said, I'm a straight shooter. You need to get out and vote.
Okay. Okay.
The other thing I want to mention is that Miss Alma Davis, back in the 60s, ran a modeling school over in D.C. Right. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay, Felicia, at this point, I've acknowledged Judy and Isabella's thing, but Felicia's going to share something with you now. Okay?
Can I go to the mic?
Yeah, go to the mic.
So I'm Felicia McPhail, Felicia Bryce McPhail, and I did not graduate from HB. And that was because of integration. And I want to just say, everybody in this room, you are privileged, because all the people who graduated with me, we were very bitter that HB was integrated. And we preferred to be segregated. And I have a lot of friends who we talk among ourselves and we say, wow, we wish we would have gone to HB. A lot of us have heard your stories. A lot of us grew up in the neighborhood. I grew up in the neighborhood next door to Miss Haskell. I lived around the corner from Miss Hoffman. I was in the neighborhood with Mr. Bellamy. And so it really meant a lot to the black communities to have all of these people who were nurturing us And so I'd just like to say to every one of you, you are truly, the word is being used a lot for Caucasians now, but you guys are real privileged people in this room because you went to HB and you experienced that, that nurturing that we didn't get. We didn't get it. We went into the integrated schools and we were treated, I mean, some of you talk about, you know, the little bit of stuff that happened, but we actually experienced it. And I just want to say, you guys are privileged. But I had Inez Dabney, you all might know her as Noni now, and she came to me about, in 2016 when Hoffman-Boston was turning 100 years old, and she said, I want you to do the school song. So these two pieces here is the Hoffman-Boston school song that she brought to me, and I think she Xeroxed it out of a yearbook. And I recreated it for the purpose of all the people who went to HB and to celebrate 100 years of HB. I also would like to say that I was writing notes down as we go, but I rode the bus 47 with Mamie Gant, and she would leave you. I do remember that. And back in the day, whatever, you know, the teacher said, that was the golden rule. But I would just like, in closing, to say, take a look at the HB song and just always remember you guys are really privileged, and I wish I was a part of that group that went to HB. You too.
Okay. Alonzo? As you took the words out of my mouth, in 2015, please, we're coming to the end of this, but we showed the video, and the video that the interview that that Wilbur did of Mr. Richardson is a part of the collection of the Center for Local History. But we showed that to an audience of probably twice this size in 2015. And Mr. Richardson, we titled it, I Was Preparing Them for Life, because this is a program from that program. And I'm going to give it out today to, okay, it's two things. This is a program from the 2015 program. We're going to end singing the Hoffman-Boston alma mater, and it's on the back of here in case you didn't do it. And, yeah. And Vanessa has done some, a history of what we did today. I don't know if we have enough, but we will do it. But we're going to end today singing the alma mater that's on the back of this program. I want to thank you all for coming. This is the beginning of the next phase. We have the generation. Felicia she's like the next generation down from us. But this has been priceless. We are going to stay in contact with you. Please, first and foremost, look through your things at home to get memorabilia from Hoffman-Boston, from your churches also, to put here. This is a program that we had, but the school song is on the back. That's why we're passing it out now, but it's a nice memento we had left from 2015. And at some point, we're going to make the effort to show the interview that Wilbur did of Mr. Richardson. That is priceless, and that's an understatement. He was 100 years old in one day, and you just have to hear it. And I'm sure that, how many people here have seen the video of the interview that Wilbur did with Mr. Richardson? So this is perfect. We will get that done, and you'll be hearing from us. You all need to hear what Mr. Richardson had to say when he was 100 years and one day old. We know what we're dealing with. We got genes. Everybody has it. Everybody have it. Okay. At this point, thank you really does not convey. Thank you. No, you all didn't have to listen, but thank you for the support that you have given to our efforts to document Hoffman-Boston Jr Senior High School. You know, and I told you I've spoken to Mrs. Hill, and be on the lookout because she'll be turning 97, and she's looking to see some of us. She wasn't able to come, but she's at Green Spring down in Springfield, and a group of us has been to her in Springfield. So we have been to give her social action committee. We have given a presentation there before, and in my talking to her, it's not definite, but it's in the works. And so you'll be hearing about that. We're going to go down there. And to my knowledge, I won't say that she is the last surviving member, of the faculty, but I don't know. Are any of you all aware of any other surviving members of the faculty at Hoffman-Boston other than Ms. Hill? I can't hear you. We'll work on that, but Ms. Hill said she thought that she was the last one. So, again, I cannot thank you enough for the support that you have given to this effort today. We're going to sing the school song, and when we leave here, go through the main lobby to see the exhibit, and, you know, just consider, just to see what they have done with the documents from Lomax Church that are there, and look for memorabilia that you have from Hoffman-Boston and your local churches so that we can really document the Black community in Arlington back in the day. Okay, now we have some singers here that's going to help us lead the...
Let us all stand. Let us all stand.
Wait a minute.
I wanted to thank my girlfriend that invited me.
Erline, come on up here and start us off.
Susan Hicks, I want to thank you, dear heart, for letting me know about this. I thank you so much, Susan.
Where's Erline?
Okay, and their memorabilia on the pictures and whatever for you all to view here on the table, as well as you really need to go to the Center for Local History also. Okay. Erline. Erline is there. Okay, where are the singers? Get started.
You can turn back.
Okay.
Turn around so they can see you. All right, one.
Okay, we're going to start. Okay, any singers? Okay, let's start. Hoffman-Boston is our dear school. Your greatness is made so by the things we do. Hoffman-Boston will strive so hard. From malice and hatred, we're always God. Oh, Hoffman-Boston is the school we love. We sing with pride straight to the skies above. Although we strive so hard to make the grade, Our hopes in you will never, never fade. So that dear school, now that we've sung to you, a song that we will promise to keep true. We'll fight for you and honor you. For we love you, Hoffman-Boston High School. Yeah!